Hi, the Insta360 Flow 2 is out, a new gimbal from Insta360 using all sorts of AI features. Could this be the gimbal that will finally give me what I need as a climber? Stay tuned to find out. Let's do this. Hi, it's Gordon, Fat Old Climber. If you're new to this channel's tracking my progress as a mediocre climber with some fitness and weight loss stuff and some tech stuff thrown in. A lot of the tech stuff I use, particularly things like this, is aimed at filming myself climbing, which is something a lot of climbers do. Any climbers out there that do a lot of filming might be interested in this. It's a lot cheaper than a lot of gimbals, coming in at £144 for the basic set. There are some other sets, but I couldn't really see any attraction in those. And what I want to do is I'm going to take you through the unboxing of it. If you're interested in that kind of thing, I'll talk you through some of the features it has. I'll try it out for the first time, and then I'm going to use it out in the wild, see how it is, and I'll post some of the results. If you want to skip through a lot of that stuff, I'll put chapter marks at the bottom. Let's do this. So let's have a look at it. The Insta360 Flow 2. Let's unbox it. So, as usual, nice box. It's got all the information on the outside, all the different features, AI powered Deep Track 4. We'll leave that like that. Not sure if you can hear the wind, but we currently have Storm Oye, whatever this is. So let's look in here first. As ever with unboxing, we have camera tracking with 200 apps. Nice little bit of documentation. Nice little case, stickers, manuals, the normal rubbish. And USB-C to USB-A cable. Come on, 360, isn't everyone using USB-C now? I'll have a look at these later. So let's have a look at the gimbal itself. This is the phone clamp. So this is just a springy phone clamp, which allows it to fit to any phone. If it does what I want, there's a MagSafe attachment, particularly for the iPhone, that I will get, but I'm not getting it until I verify that it's working. And here's the gimbal. So first impression, it's quite heavy, heavier than I thought it would be, certainly. Don't know if you can see this. It's got a ton of stickers on it that I presume you have to take off. I'm not going to take them off until I verify that it's working. You just turn it on by flicking it up. And there you go. So let me try the Insta360 app to see if I can connect it. Found it in the app. Pair. Whoops, knocked it over. New firmware. As is common with these things, as soon as you turn it on, it wants to download new firmware. Flow will receive firmware updates and go into force reset state. Please do not operate Flow or exit the app. So let's do that. That should take a wee while. In the meantime, let me talk you through some of the features of this. It's a gimbal. I mean, it's a 3-axis gimbal like any other phone gimbal. I'm not really sure any of them are better or worse than each other. Some of them will handle fast movement better than others, but I plan to test that out. It has all sorts of additional AI tracking features. It has 360-degree pan tracking, so I can set this up on a tripod, track myself and go all the way around it, like you'd want to do that. So it has active zoom tracking, so you can set this up to track someone in the distance or close up, and as they vary their distance from the camera, it will automatically zoom in and out. As far as I'm aware, it needs to be on a tripod to do that. And it has multi-person tracking. It has the ability to zoom in on a distant subject and track them. So I've seen some fancy videos of people playing football and it's tracking a particular person in a crowd of other people. So that's quite clever. But a lot of the advanced features it has can only be done using their Insta360 app. Now, that's fine for a lot of people, I'm sure. It's probably fine for the biggest percentage of people who would use a phone gimbal. I don't want to use their app. I use the Blackmagic camera app. It allows me significantly more control over my quality and my settings. It allows me to record in ProRes Apple log, but also with smaller files. But this has Apple DocKit, which allows the phone to connect to the device, and it means the gimbal can be used in pretty much any iOS app, including Blackmagic camera app. My understanding is a lot of the fancy gimbal tricks it has can't be used in that. So the reason I say I'm testing this to make sure it works is that's what I'm testing. I want to see how functional it is within the Black camera app. I'm sure all the fancy bells and whistles within the Insta360 app are superb, and they'll be fun to play with, I take it, and they'll be more than enough for most people. But if you want to film with something other than that app, it's going to be a bit more restricted. And also the tracking, it's not as fast, not as good. So my main test will be testing that. So please reconnect device. It's asking me to activate it. I'll register it later. But that seems to be it. Downloading essential resources. I don't know what the essential resources are, but it looks like it's going to take a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm a bit concerned it can't. Oh, so the other thing it has a trigger button. Trigger operates some of the functions, and it has this multi option button, which is a scroll wheel and has some buttons on it. I don't know what the buttons do other than record. It also has a nifty little thing hidden in here, which is a tripod, which allows it to be quite stable. It has a normal 1/4-inch thread there if you wanted a bigger tripod or mount it on a big tripod. I've got a good tripod for my Osmo Pocket, which has quite a wide base, and I would probably use that for this. But so let's, it says start shooting, leave that. So let's get this on. So I'm not sure how this goes on, or how much you need to worry about it being balanced, but I put it on. Do you want to exit the tutorial? Yes, got it. So I'm in the camera app. So basically my understanding is all you do is stick it on. Now it looks like there's a little notch here and a corresponding notch on there. I'm guessing that's where that needs. Oh, wow, that's quite a strong link. So it's gimbaling. That's the gimbal. What I want to do is I want to try it in the dock kit. So let's pull this off. Now apparently what you do, whoa, all you do is you hover your phone over it and this comes up. And it says loading your accessory, tracking dock it's called. Done. So that's it. The thing that will determine whether it's any good or not, or whether I keep it or not, is actually trying it on a climbing wall. Unfortunately, the weather is absolutely atrocious here. We've got storm Aowen, over 100-mile-an-hour winds, so a lot of the climbing centres are closed. But as soon as I can, which will probably now be Sunday, might be climbing tonight, but unlikely. I'll take it along. I'll try some shots with it out in the wild. I'll try some shots with it with the Blackmagic camera app. I'll see if I can come to grips with how to use it. I might even try the Insta360 app, although I'm just not committed to stopping using Black Camera app, which I've been doing for a while now. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'll film those and I'll add them to this video, and then at the end of it all I'll do a roundup and tell you what I think. Just a little additional information about this clip that goes on the back here. This is the default clip that comes with the device, which is for any phone, but there is a MagSafe adapter, which I didn't have when I first got the device. Looks a lot better. And it basically just clips on the back, and all you need to make sure is that it's perpendicular, and it means when you're adding it, it adds a lot easier, but more importantly it's a lot slimmer, so for carrying about, this can more or less just stay on my phone if I want it, or if I don't want it I can just leave it on the device. They seem obsessed, reviewers, with the fact that there's a little clip on it. You can see this little clip here, which allows you to stand your phone up like that or watch a video. That's something I never plan to do. However, in terms of ease of use, this is going to be a lot better than this. Only available for the iPhone, however. And it attaches a lot easier. Thanks. So I just wanted to talk you through the controls for the gimbal. I didn't really get a chance to look at that. This is your default that you see when you put the gimbal on and start the Insta360 app. These buttons here do different things. So we'll start at the left. The left is just a press, start record, and it's just recording. Stop, records. Press it twice, and nothing happens. So it's just a single press, record, and that also works with the other camera apps using DocKit. Top, if you press once, it goes into a weird 360 video mode and starts recording. That button does the same in other camera apps except for the starting recording, and you can see this little light flashing. That little flashing light means that the gimbal is recording, that the phone is recording, and that light doesn't flash in other camera apps, which is quite annoying because you can't really tell if it's recording or not. Twice gives you 360-degree photographs, and you have the option to switch between full 360, 240, 180 and a big stitched camera. Not really interested in that. 3 times, absolutely nothing. So the right, if you press it, it switches between the back, hello, and front cameras. Press it twice, changes between portrait and landscape. Now obviously I'm a YouTuber, so most of the stuff I film, pretty much everything I film in landscape. You can see on this app you've got all the normal controls for changing, for example, your frame rate. Interesting, it can only go up to 60 frames per second, which I guess for most people is going to be fine, but the camera app can go up to 120, so and as can Blackmagic camera app. So you can set your exposure automatic or manual, you can set your gimbal mode. So that's the buttons. On the other side you have the trigger. I'll turn it the other way so that it's looking at me. So as you can see from the little, I don't know if you can see that little box, but it's tracking me, and one press of the trigger turns the tracking off. Similarly, one press turns it back on. And it defaults to tracking kind of in the center of the screen. And if that's not really what you want, which for a climbing video is not ideal because you kind of want the head towards the top, you can press this little thing here which says Pro Framing Grid, and it allows you to place whatever's being tracked in any of 9 parts of the screen. So for most climbing videos, I would have the head at the top so that when I get into distance, you'd be able to see my full body. We'll put it back in the middle for the time being. So yeah, single trigger turns on and off tracking. Now, in the normal camera apps, when you turn on tracking and there's no one in the frame, nothing happens. But in the Insta360 app, if you turn on tracking, it will try and find something to track. So if I, for example, it's hard to show this, if I zoom in on, say for example, this window and turn on tracking, you can see it's actually tracking the window. So now when I move, you might not be able to see that, it's tracking. So that's useless for me, but particularly useful if you want to track things other than people. So you could track a pet, a dog, a train, a car, and you can only really do that in the 360 app. So that's tracking. Let's go back to normal camera. Double click, recenters the gimbal. So quite often you end up with the gimbal in a weird position. Double click it and it recenters. And lastly, 3 presses and it turns you around to the norm. Now, what you can maybe see, if I turn on tracking, I'll put this up so you can see it. What you can maybe see is a very shiny mirror surface. So what that allows you to do is see where you are. I mean, obviously you won't see it, but I'm fairly centered in the image. So that's all the controls. Lastly, the zoom, this is a wheel, this thing, and if you turn it, it activates zoom. I don't think that's a particularly good way to film. What I would rather do is film all in one lens, and if I want to zoom in a bit, I'll zoom in post. And that zoom works with the normal camera as well. However, what also happens if you flick it, it changes cameras, and that's a useful thing. The ability to just change cameras. Now, in the app, that dial can be changed to focus, manual focus. I've never really got into using manual focus. I don't think you've got enough depth of field. But I guess if you were filming something very close, that would work. So that's it. That's all the controls I can think of. So the bottom one cycles between modes. So the light at the bottom means it's in the bottom one. Press it goes left, which is FPV, which I never use. Top is auto, which is it's deciding what to do. Not really sure why you would use that. And the right is follow, and the bottom is pan follow. If you don't know the difference, in pan follow, it only moves left or right, it won't move up or down. But in follow, if I tilt the gimbal up, you'll see the lens goes up. If I tilt the gimbal down, you'll see the lens go down. In pan follow, you'll see that doesn't happen. the image is locked off, but it will turn left or right. Now, the last thing to show on it, and is this. If you have the selfie stick out, the problem is if you try and go down, it kind of sticks. So it's got a feature where, I'm hoping this is in the screen, you turn this 90 degrees and then turn that 90 degrees and a little indicator should come on. You're in locked off mode. Yeah, so it's free tilt mode, and in free tilt mode it allows you to move the gimbal up and down. Now this shot here you're seeing was done with that with this selfie stick. And then to put it back, you need to remember you're turning 90 degrees and 90 degrees, and that's you back in the same position. This shot again is in the Insta360 app, and it's using the automatic zoom, so it's tracking on Karina and deciding on a zoom level based on where she is, and despite the fact that she goes in and amongst lots of other people, it still keeps track of her. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the best examples of what this thing can do. This is Karina walking through a busy climbing centre, and all I'm doing is walking. I'm not trying to keep the camera on her, and the gimbal is just keeping track of her, no matter how many people she goes in between or through. And then at the end here, you can see she walks on one side of a big pillar and I walk on the other, and as soon as we come out the other side, it picks her up again. Very impressive. Just take a look at how fast Fran and Karina are running here, and see if you can notice Fran pretty much throwing the gimbal about. And then this is the result. Really couldn't believe how smooth it looked. This was a different day, a different climbing centre, and by this time I had pretty much given up trying to use the tracking on the normal camera or the Blackmagic camera app. It managed to track, but the movements were jerky by comparison. What you notice about the movements in this is it pretty much looks like a camera person is following Vivian up the wall. The tracking is totally locked on and the movement is smooth. And then in this shot I've got the gimbal on a longer selfie stick, and I've got it locked off as I follow Vivian up the wall. And here I'm getting a bit creative, just connecting 3 or 4 shots together to put together a sequence. I'm just taking advantage of the January sun to have my first coffee in the garden. It's remarkably warm for the time of year. First of many, I hope. So what are my final thoughts? There's a lot to like about this gimbal. I think when it comes to what most people want to use a gimbal for, a gimbal's a gimbal. In terms of, does it hold the camera steady? Can you move without, can you get nice flowing shots without the camera bobbing up and down and shaking about? And pretty much every gimbal I've ever tried handles that well. I have to say, if you think back to the footage of Fran running, filming Karina, the speed she was going and how she was throwing the gimbal about, it does a fantastic job of stabilising that. So it may be up there as one of the best stabilising gimbals I've used, but that's not really why I want it. When you look at some of the tracking features are incredible. The shot of Karina in our climbing gym using the Insta360 app, important to remember. The fact that it could keep track of her in amongst all those other people. Even when she went behind the wall, it picked her up again as soon as she came back out. That's impressive. Again, not necessarily what I want to use it for, but if you're looking for a gimbal that can track and differentiate between people and crowds, I think it's unrivaled. So, but looking at it for what I want it for, I think the thing to bear in mind is that a lot of its best tracking features only come when using the Insta360 app. Now, I won't really know what the footage from the Insta360 app looks like until I actually edit the video. I'll maybe put some words up here about what I think about it. My preference is to use the Blackmagic camera app because I have significantly more control over what my camera is doing, significantly more control over how it looks. I normally film in Apple ProRes log, but H.265, which you can't do in the Insta360 app. But for shots that are the gimbal shots I want to get, then arguably it's going to be fine. As I say, we'll need to wait and see what the video footage looks like. Just to remind you what I'm looking for in a gimbal, other than the normal gimbally things, what I'm looking for is the ability to, when I'm on my own, stick the gimbal on the ground or on a tripod and film myself climbing a climb, but without having to resort to super widescreen video that I zoom in. The idea that I can cut fairly close in using either the 1 or 2 times camera and have the gimbal track me is very attractive. And all I can say is my tests, it seems to work, certainly indoors. One of the things I plan to do this year is do a lot more climbing outdoors, and to be able to stick it on a tripod and have it track me when I do a climb, that's attractive. If you're interested in gimbals, looking at all its other features, the multi-person tracking, the auto zoom feature, which works remarkably well. I never use digital zoom, but people do. But the fact that it can zoom in and out without you having to look out for it is incredible. Long and the short of it is, if you don't mind using the Insta360 app, I think this is the best gimbal I've tried, and I've tried a few for the smartphone. If you particularly want to use the built-in camera or another app like Blackmagic camera app, then its features are not as rich. The tracking is not as good. The AI tracking on the Insta360 app is solid and smooth. If you watch shots of me climbing, it's like the cameraman's following me up. Whereas if you watch shots of me climbing using the normal camera app, it's more jerky. It's almost like it notices moved, catch up, notices I've moved, catch up. So there's a payoff. I'm willing to try it. It by far gives me the closest thing to what I'm looking for, which is a gimbal that allows me to film myself or other people. Normally when I'm filming other people, I'm quite happy to hold the camera, but the fact that I can just stick this on the ground and film climbs is very good. So for me, it gets a big thumbs up. It is easily the best gimbal I've used for the iPhone. If you found this interesting or useful, then don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're interested in climbing, there's some tech stuff. I'm mainly focused on tech stuff that's about tech I would use to film climbing. Then don't forget to subscribe. So that's it, the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. Definitely the best gimbal I've used. And at £144 for the base model, I think it's incredible value for money. So if you're interested in either smooth camera movements that you can only get with a gimbal, or the ability to film yourself, particularly climbing, then I recommend it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time.